All right, so good afternoon, everyone, and very much welcome to another meetup, both online and in person, as you might see in a minute through the camera work we've set up here. We really hope to make a good connection between everything that goes on online and offline, but please bear with us. We're just getting the hang of all this now that slightly the COVID measures are fading away and we're ready to actually get back together in person. But do not want to alienate anyone who cannot actually be here in person, but wants to join online. So we're really happy to have you all here. So first of all, welcome. Right, we're in our office here at the Triple S building in Amsterdam, where we're really happy to be in quite a spacious room, so we can actually host some nice events here. We're very happy also to have you back here online because we're really looking forward to actually also make sure that a large audience has access to everything that we have to offer. My name is Don Ginsel. I'm the founder of Holland Fintech, and I'll be your host for today. And let me see if everything works here with Clicker. Yes, indeed. It says here on the slide that I'm up next, so that's all right. And so we're going to try and actually make it work with both online and offline, as just said. What we're going to try and do in any case, make it really clear if there are questions being asked here in the room, I'll replicate them to make sure that everyone can also hear it online. And if you have questions online, please make use of the chat. So one of my colleagues can actually tell me that there's something going on that we should pay attention to, because we'd like to make it as interactive as possible. So looking forward to get your input, questions, and ideas. What does the agenda have to offer today? We're really keen on actually some great pictures today and companies that will showcase their solutions. First of all, I'll give you a brief update about what Holland Fintech is about and tell you about the latest news wrap-up from February. We do that every month. We basically give you a little digest about everything that went on in the fintech field that we picked up on. Then we'll get a very nice pitch from Encompass Corporation by Dick-Jan and Hauke. Then we'll hear about Propellant Digital from Vincent. He'll do that online, but we've got Ellen here in the room to cover up should things go wrong. Then we'll have a brief fintech quiz. So based on both the monthly wrap-up as well as some recent things that were in the news, we're really happy to share with you how that. No, you can't move it. You can't direct it. Oh, okay. It'll go. So basically you'll get the pub quiz where we'll actually hope to bring a bit of fun to exchanging knowledge about everything that's going on in fintech. Then we'll get Manikantan to tell us about Imudra, identity solution. Really nice to hear from him. And then Michiel is going to tell us all about Zinio. After that, we'd like to always welcome everyone who have to vote for the best pitch, because we think it's, we'd like to appreciate hard work that's being put into that. And then, of course, we're going to closing comments and finally some drinks again. Something that we've actually normally always done after each meetup. But of course, the last 2 years were a bit more difficult to get that arranged. But today they're standing by there. You can't see it yet, but we'll show them later. We're actually going to have some Friday afternoon drinks like we're supposed to. So I'm looking forward to all that. Just to double check now with the team. Are we good online? Everything audible, visible? Yep. Everyone in the room here, okay? Yeah? All right, great. Then we'll get started. Just 2 slides on what Holland Fintech does, just to make sure that we all understand why we're here, actually. So we're an association that's made up of around 300 organizations that are all active somehow in financial innovation. That doesn't mean you have to be in the financial industry, but it means that you actually care about all kinds of innovations that are in or around the financial industry happening at the moment. This could go about payments, but also about transactions. Could also be about trading, could be about insurance, risk management. But think about, for example, also company administration and ERP, because in the end, it's all connected. So we see actually that the whole economy is becoming digital, and very often it's fintech underpinning that transition. And that's why we believe we actually need to open up to quite a wide audience to collaborate, discover what these changes mean, and find collaboration opportunities between all these parties that are active here. So we do that now for about 7 years with quite a large network, but we're always keen to bring in more parties and make sure that we expand the story to a larger audience. Our slogan we use is connect, learn, and innovate. And that means we really like you to take part in the network, connect to everyone that's available, learn to actually understand what's going on around the world and share knowledge, as well as to innovate, is to actually get into action and make stuff happen. we think that's really important for everyone to get access to that. And that's why we actually also organize these meetups, like to share knowledge. We do research into this, but especially it's also about connecting and meeting people and exchanging views. So we're really happy to actually bring you here, also online to join that. Now let me give a brief intro into what's going on, what happened, what we at least saw or recognized in February. This is definitely not all the news that is out there, because that's way, way more. We just want to highlight a couple of things that we think stand for certain trends that are happening in the industry. A couple of what's interesting in any case is that in the UK, which is generally seen as quite a favorable environment for fintech, because the regulators and policymakers there are actually really keen on supporting that, we still see that a group of fintech companies was actually very active in calling upon additional effort by the market authorities and regulators to actually make it better. We've seen, of course, that Brexit had quite a big impact on the position of London with regard to finance and fintech, although we still think that the UK is actually do pretty well at the moment. But for example, with regard to trading, you see that there's quite a big shift that has gone on, and that's why they're still keep on calling for better regulation and a better environment for fintech. On the other hand, another quite a big fintech hub, Singapore, who has always been very favorable for all kinds of fintech innovations, is now actually coming down on crypto. We've seen that actually that also before, for example, India and China also came up with new regulations to push down crypto. And funnily enough, now also Singapore has made an effort to do that. And I'm not even talking about the things from the recent weeks when we're talking about crypto in relation to Russian sanctions. So this is all February news, right? So this is actually before, when we were still just looking at the Olympics at nighttime, rather than the everything that's going on in Ukraine at the moment. We see that JP Morgan actually is one of the ones that are jumping onto the metaverse, right? They actually decided to open a lounge in Decentraland. It's a bit less known metaverse variety, but quite interesting to see actually that also large financial institutions are jumping into this. It's very interesting to see how this is going to evolve, because we've seen, 20 years back with Second Life, that also a lot of commercial entities actually moved into this 3D world. It wasn't such a success as a lot of people hoped back then. We know that technology has advanced a lot, but the question is it far enough now to actually become part of normal life, and therefore also, make a really big commercial contribution? Interesting to see that, we see another company from, let's say, phone company, Huawei, or at least electronics company, that's also very active with their smartphones. They are moving into the payment space much further, working together with Eleta Planet. Another one that's really interesting, I think, is we all know contactless payments as a consumer, but merchants were not able to actually activate their phone as a POS. And that's actually what Apple's now decided to offer, to accept contactless payments with your iPhone. I think quite a big jump, and I think it all fits into the, let's say, e-commerce becoming peer-to-peer, right? So you actually you lose the discrimination between consumers and merchants. In the end, anyone is both a consumer and a merchant at the same time. And so exchanging, whether you want to make a payment or receive a payment and administer for it, is becoming more and more one. And this really confirms that trend, which I think is quite interesting. At the same time, while there were definitely some successes in the tech world, we also saw that February was a really tough month. Amongst others, Facebook had a really strong downfall in their share price because they had some disadvantaged figures that they showed for. That was, and what we saw in the wake of that a lot of other tech companies were pulled down. So we saw in general that the Nasdaq and other tech companies really got a lower valuation due to also the reports by Facebook. Hi guys, welcome. Besides that, we saw that European Klarna, one of the largest fintech companies we know from Sweden, actually planned to do a stock listing in the UK, as they said before. They decided, partly due to the adverse listing environment, decided to actually go for a new funding round that they announced. And when they will succeed to do that, they will probably be the most highly valued unicorn in the land of fintech, because they stay private rather than be publicly listed, like companies like Adyen, for example. Quite interesting, I think. In the US, we actually see a bit of a crackdown on some market participants who feel that some of the fintech companies are too easy with extending loans with a predator interest rates. I think that's also quite interesting to see now that at some point you'll see, like for example in Europe, that the regulators are very much on top of that. Like for example in the Netherlands, we know an interest rate cap of 10% for consumers at the moment, which excludes quite some types of lending that would be very normal, for example, in the UK or in the US. But now you actually see that also a public market participants are actually calling for regulation on that level. Quite interesting to see that. And well, besides Facebook, also PayPal was actually one of the ones taking some serious hits in their on their listing because they had a very disappointing outlook for this year. Quite interesting to see, and of course, PayPal is in a very crowded space. There's just a lot of payment solutions coming about, and you just see that their wallet approach is just not something that, let's say, is being replicated by a lot of other players. And especially now that you see that Apple Wallet, Samsung Wallet, those kind of, and Google Wallet are actually picking up pace, you see that PayPal is actually facing quite some fierce competition. Any questions about this so far? Then I'll just move on with the overview of the funding that we've seen. Globally, we've tracked these 5 largest deals in February. Fireblocks in the crypto and payment space. Go Cardless, I think a well-known company with anyone that has to deal with online payments, rose a very big round. Flutterwave is quite a nice deal that was done, and actually now the largest or the most valued company in Africa. Aleo you see there as well that also there are a lot of crypto and payments, especially here in the funding overview. And Genesis, quite a nice one as well, more on the development tech side of fintech. If we then move it over to Europe, we get these 5 companies that actually did well. Via Bill on the buy now, pay later space, quite popular still. Clicalia, sorry, I have to pronounce it well. They basically also do e-commerce financing, also very important space, so basically similar to the buy now, pay later, trying to just make it easy for merchants to convert customers into paying customers. Weaver, a very nice deal last week, 2 weeks ago announced. Also just became a member actually, so we'll probably hear from them pretty soon as well. And Aggregas and Toom, also two really nice deals from Estonia and Copenhagen. Then in the Dutch market, so we keep on zooming in to where we are, and then we see that Intensify recently raised 15 million, and Blanco Services, also one of our members, recently raised 3 million, and actually turned over their management as well, did an overhaul in the management, and so it's really nice to see that the funds keep on flowing. And of course, while the Dutch market is relatively slow, you generally see some smaller deals there, but it's nice that actually the activity keeps on coming. Then we just have, and I think if you read our weekly newsletters, you might actually recognize the categories, right? So we tend to write about the news, research reports that we found, funding articles, as well as opinion pieces, and that's also the order that we'll follow here. So we've got one piece of research that we thought was interesting to highlight. CB Insights is a research firm that gathers a lot of data about investments, and they, for example, track how much money is being invested in digital banking. And they saw that there was a 129% surge in investments in digital banking in 2021. And even if you look at the more mega rounds, you see that there's a 217% increase, which basically tells me that we're talking about relatively mature companies, right? Because if the rounds are getting bigger, that means that we're generally looking at later stage investment rounds. And so it doesn't actually mean that from a startup side, there's still a lot going on, but it does mean that the segment is very much maturing and that there's a lot of capital being put available there. Then just two opinions from some of the highlights that we gave, right? So we think it's always interesting to read as well from opinion leaders, how they envision the markets evolving. And we get basically here one focus, especially on the crypto side, where they believe there's really going to be, really believe that they're going to dominate the commercial space as well. And here we'll see that from the Bank of America, the uncertainty is actually going to have a lot of impact on the world, which I don't think is a really big surprise, but I think it's definitely a signal of the current age that we're in. I think everyone was kind of relieved that we were looking at a relief of COVID measures after the turn of the year. But since Russia invaded Ukraine, I think we see a lot of new uncertainty coming into both financial market as well as business perspective. I think now already was predicted that at least consumers will have on average 2.5% less to spend this year than previous year. And also, of course, if you look at the specific industries where there might be disruptions into the value chain, for example, or with dependencies on both either Russia or Ukraine, or be hit by any of the sanctions, or have to implement these sanctions, that all gives quite some impact to the economy. I'd like to leave it at that for with regard to the monthly overview. I hope you enjoy this. If you like more of this, you can check it on our website. We have the articles that we publish on a daily basis. And of course, each week we'll send you a digest of everything that we saw and in the weekly newsletter. So feel free to sign up, and looking forward to inform you in that channel as well. Are there any questions about this? Just to check. Hope you will enjoy. Then I'll be asking you questions during the Kahoot quiz, right? So keep an eye out for that. And then I'd like to call Dick Jan and Hauke forward for a first pitch.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, we have a different mic?
Thanks. Okay. So thank you very much, everyone. Welcome. It's great to have a presentation in front of real people rather than a screen. For the people at home, we are actually placed in a square here, so we hope we do not disappear from your screen at home. So how you may step a bit in. I'm not sure if you're visible. I don't know. It's a pleasure to present Encompass to you. We may be new to you as a brand name. Hauke will tell you a bit more about our history. We're actually around already for about 10 years, but opened an office here in Amsterdam last quarter of last year. My name is Dick Jan. I'm one of the business development directors at Encompass. And as you see, together with Hauke, I will do the presentation today. So.
I'm Hauke van der Meer. I'm the new guy, so I joined a month ago, also in the Amsterdam office.
Yeah, so and we became a member of Holland Fintech actually directly after we incorporated our branch here in the Netherlands. I previously worked for LexNext Risk Solutions, was also a member of Holland Fintech, and we found it very valuable at a time and during years that I joined LexNext to be a member. So hope that we can profit and from all the advantages that Holland Fintech offers. Who has the clicker?
Who has the clicker? Don has the clicker.
Yeah, thank you. So this just puts us a bit in an environment. So Encompass is all about KYC, is all about compliance. This was a chart I think was made up 2 years ago. You see us pointed to the UK. That is where we, and Hauke will tell you a bit more, but that's where one of our largest offices is. And from the UK, we now are moving into continental Europe, and in parallel, we are also moving into the US.
Yeah, so it's perhaps good to start off with what was the actual reason for the start of this company. It's actually quite an interesting story. So the two founders, Roger and Wayne, actually previously before Encompass owned their own company in data, sold that company, made some profit, and then do what you normally do if you sell your company. You then say, I'll go and invest. They did some in real estate, and one of those deals, they became actually a victim of financial crime. And what they found out when they did some research on that, why that actually happened, because what happened was that they actually sold to their local gangster in real estate in Sydney. They actually found out that their legal firm that supported them actually did have a lot of data. They did actually also have the data that led to that particular gangster. But it was very cumbersome and it was very manual work to actually get there. And that for them was the idea to start to say, okay, there is data, there is means to find your UBO, but it's often a very manual and cumbersome process. And that for them was the reason to start this company, because they had the expertise in data. So started in Sydney, predominantly first aimed at legal companies, because that's where their problem was. but then actually found out that if you look at Europe and then also the banking segment, that the needs for this data is actually way higher. So they then opened up an office in Glasgow, after that London, and we're now actually doing expansion into New York, office opened there, Amsterdam, as you mentioned, 4 months ago, and also in APAC. Companies started in 2011. I think, right, what we see now is that the expansion that we do is after the years that we've had in Australia and in the UK, is that we're now starting to pan out into Europe and the States. Next slide, please, or actually the video. We have to switch to the video, which will give a brief introduction on what it is that we do and how we do it, and hope this works. Yes, it does. Yeah, it's just as good. Thanks. Thank you. We can switch back to the slides. So what is the essence of the KYC challenge, if as we would call it? A lot of that is around data. So the checks that you have to do if you onboard clients is you have to check numerous data sources. And that's where our strong point is that we say we have collected over 120 data sources, both public but also premium, that we use when you search for a particular company or a person in order to find who's the ultimate owner of that particular company. And the thing that we do, and what we of course think we do well, is we automate that. So a very manual process becomes a faster process. So it doesn't take days anymore. It takes just 10 to 15 minutes. And there is an adherence to policy. And then I'll switch to DJ.
Yeah, so this is a typical, actually a live example of a proof of value that we have done with one of our financial institutions recently. So what we typically do in this proof of value is that we say to, say, a bank or a PSP or, okay, can you give us a number of, say, 10 entities that you have onboarded in the past, and tell us for each of the steps that you're doing, how long it takes you to unwrap, say, the data, to find the information that you need in order to have a good, say, risk perspective. So here you see that actually a lot of these things, as Hauke says, is we still see that it is a very manual process in the CDD, and the due diligence part. So analysts are grabbing, they're looking for various data sources. Parties do have maybe some subscriptions to premium data source, but they also look into public data sources. And you see that in practice, a lot of people, if you have, say, 5 or 6 analysts together, that they may do it all differently. So what we can do is we bring this all together according to certain policies, and everyone is actually trying to find, so to say, the right information at the same time. And here it is about, say, time saving, and obviously, as you see further, it's about cost saving. I heard already people who were saying, okay, we are trying to open a bank account with a large bank, and it takes ages because they're reaching out to us a couple of times, and they can't, that's because they can't find actually the information. If they have the information, say through Encompass, for example, and all the related data sources, you don't have to reach out again and again and again to your customers. That is in a nutshell. So it is control, consistency. Everyone is doing it actually according to the same policy, and you find a lot more data than you are doing currently in your manual processes. We realize that it is very high level, but this is us, and well, we hope to see you on the next occasions of Holland Fintech. Thank you. Any questions?
Take one of the mics to make that a bit easier. While we fix some things on the camera there, let's start here perhaps with some questions. Is there anyone in the room already that has a question for the Jan or Hauke? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, so we have, so if you see, say, a couple of banks that we can mention, like whether it's Deutsche or HSBC or JP Morgan, they are using this solution actually at the moment that they have a customer who comes in with a certain entity, but that is part maybe of a larger structure. They're getting these names into the Encompass platform. It's either UI or API, can be connected to CLMs of banks as well. And then according to the policy, you start to unwrapping all these data, which you find well, that's maybe too short for this presentation, but you can visualize ultimately, say, the whole corporate structure. And then in addition, that's maybe also good to mention, we do the risk screening as well. So you get a corporate structure with all the entities and all the related individuals, whether it's UBOs or officers. And you can actually see whether these are PEPs, political exposed persons, whether you're dealing with sanctioned entities as well. So that is all brought to you in one picture.
Thanks. Pretty clear. Anyone else? Yeah, Manikantan.
Thank you. So I just wanted to check whether this data can be extrapolated to, probably validating the organizations before we issue certificates. I mean, I'm talking from my own company's perspective. We are web trust audited CA, so we are still looking for sources where we can validate companies before we start issuing the process. Now, you see a lot of TLS certificates that are getting issued takes time now. So do you think this data could be used to, probably automate the issuance?
Yeah, so you automate it, and for example, many companies do have subscriptions to, say, to premium data source. So that is one part where you can validate, but you can at the same time go to, say, to registries as well for the same company, and then you can try and validate actually the data both from the premium and from the primary data sources.
Yeah, also one question I have in any case is that I think currently banks are spending millions, if not billions, on these processes, right? And they're especially throwing a lot of consultants at this. What's going wrong? What are they doing wrong?
Yeah, I think the embracing technology is still a challenge for a lot of banks. A lot of banks are still trying to merge all the legacy systems into one, and I think that is one of the reasons that you see in the Netherlands, for example, that there are so many, say, manual processes. If you see the job postings of all these banks in compliance, whether it's ABN with 4,000 people or the Rabobank with the same number of people, and they're still relying more on individuals than on technology. So if we have talks with banks, the technology part, they love the solution, but sometimes it takes a bit of time to say, okay, guys, but how can we integrate that in our current process?
I can imagine. I just want to check with my colleagues if there are any questions online. Anything in the chat? No. Okay. There's in any case, that's a call out for anyone and that is listening to please come up with questions if you have any. All right. I think it's pretty clear. Just check here in the room if there are any open questions still. All right. Then let's give them a big hand. Thank you very much, Jan and Hauke. Okay, yes, indeed. So please bring out your phone and scan the QR code. Let's see if this works a bit from TV as well. Otherwise, you can just go to menti.com and use the code 71518165. And so it's basically a small questionnaire that you'll get to rate the presentation. And we're looking forward to actually get your view on how they were doing, and of course compare that over all the pitches that we have over the past time. All right. I think now we're going to a more challenging area to actually go to an online pitch. So I'm going to see, look at my colleagues. Or are we still the first one is in person?
So we can go to the next pitch.
Just to check first if everyone got to menti.com or used the QR code. I think that all worked. And also online, everyone can vote, of course. So please use the same code to actually do that.
Yep. So on the Menti, I just want to say that you submit at the end. So you can rate all four at one question and then submit at the end.
All right. Thanks, Wyndham. Great. So indeed, now we're actually going to see if we can get Vincent Grandjean on online to pitch for Propellant.
Second, yes. So welcome to everyone. I'm sorry of not being with you in person, but Alan is there. So we are maybe the youngest fintech maybe around in Holland Fintech. So we were born nearly less than 9 months ago. We are a data analytics fintech. We are incorporated in the Netherlands, and we have got team, myself in the UK, Alan in Amsterdam, and we have got our development team in Romania. The founder is Alan and myself. Alan and myself, I worked a long time ago together in London. And then a few months ago, we found each other again, and we decided to create this startup. I've got an experience in capital markets, so that's maybe an area that is not very well known because a lot of fintech are more oriented towards retail and corporate banking. I mean, Encompass is another example of I guess where the clients are also investment bank as main clients. So next slide, please. So the challenge that we are trying to address, there are plenty of data. There is more and more data all around the place. I think that when you look at asset managers, pension fund, banks, and so on, they've got huge costs from a data perspective. There are plenty of data that are available freely on the net. And so what we are trying to do, we are trying to collect this data, aggregate this data, and make them available to the different participants at a cheaper cost. So it's a challenge for everybody. I mean, cost pressure is all around the place. So we are providing a solution that will allow our customers to have a competitive advantage to access to this data. So next slide. So what we do, we have developed a SaaS solution that allow to do data analytics. So basically, what does that mean? Is that we are allowing our client to bring their own transactional data and mixing this data with public data to enhance and to do new analytics. So it means that they will be able to use our data in their machine learning tools, in AI, and to improve the way that they are trading bonds or equity with client. And the client, we are speaking most of the time asset managers or pension fund. So we are democratizing the capability of aggregating the data. We are providing a solution that if you are comparing to potentially Bloomberg, Refinitiv, that has got that is cheaper, and also we have built that on the cloud that allow us actually to be scalable and to have a very scalable business. Okay, next slide, please. So our mission is really, we want to organize the financial market data, make it transparent, accessible, affordable, and useful to the ecosystem. The ecosystem is very broad. I spoke about banks, asset managers, but it also includes universities. And universities in Europe are starving from data. They need to buy the data when they do the research. There is a lot of data available for the US, but not for Europe. So we are providing as well a competitive way to have access to data that they've never had. So that's also very interesting to get a university and researcher involved in the system, in the market. Next slide, please. Okay, so as I mentioned, we went live in October. We signed our first client in October. We went live with the first client early December. And as of today, I mean, that slide is actually old now. We have got 11 client lives. So we went live today with a major banks. So I think that's a nice little achievement, being 9 months old and having 11 clients live and testing our solution. And so far, the feedback has been very, very good. Next slide. Yes. So there is something, if you are not familiar with capital markets, that is not going to ring you anything. But the European Commission, following the market crash in 2007, came up with a lot of regulation to make more and more market transparent, to allow people to see more what is happening. So the EC has come up with what they call a consolidated tab. It's to aggregate data, trading data, and make that really available to others. So part of that, I think the IFM, I don't know if anybody from the IFM in the call, has organized an innovation hub to allow fintech like ours to participate into the potential development of consolidated tab. So we are part of that. We are very proud of being part of that innovation hub and to try to participate to resolve an existing problem. I don't know if it's going to be possible because all of that must be a bit abstract for you. I wanted to share something on my screen. Do you think I could try to share, or do you think it's going to be too challenging? Can I try to share? Oh, does that work? Can you see something? Can you see my screen? So can you see my screen? So
yes, it's visible.
Okay.
Yes.
So this is to illustrate something. So this is showing the activity that we have been collecting for our clients. So this is transaction. It's people buying bonds. It's people buying derivative product, and so on and so on. So what that chart shows is that over the previous week, when you look early February, we have been collecting up to 3 million of transactions per week. A couple of weeks ago, something big happened, and you see that, I mean, we had an increase of 15% during a week of the activity. So yes, this is the translation of the Ukraine crisis, and that chart, what it shows at the bottom is the different asset classes that have been traded. So the one that we know the most is maybe all the bonds, corporate bonds, government bonds. We see that hasn't moved much during that week. It came a bit after. But the main product that have had an increase of activity were actually all the forward products. So for example, FX forwards, derivative forwards, we have seen a jump. So this means that people have been hedging their Ukraine situation. So this is the kind of insight that we are able to provide to our clients. I'm going to try something else if it works. So let me. So on that one, for people who are
Also
sorry?
To start wrapping it up, Vincent.
Yes, okay. So it was just to try to illustrate what kind of information we provide. So we provide our client ability to see much more data on what happened on the European markets. I think that's it. Alan, I don't know if you want to add something.
No, Vincent, sounds good.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks. It's nice to have Alan here in the room, actually answering some questions. But thanks a lot first, Vincent, for your presentation. And thank you for bearing with us to take the technical hurdles to get started. Any questions here in the room, and also everyone, of course, watching online, I'd like to invite you to type your questions in the chat. Anyone here that has a question? well, what did I have to maybe kick you up and kick it off and warm you all up? What is sort of let's say, in how far are customers now actually being pushed to use your solution? So how far does the regulatory framework enforce actually moving into your space? Or is it actually just a good addition to some of the things that are already there? So I can't see Vincent at the moment, so maybe I'll just ask Alan first.
Yeah, it's a very good question. I think the case is, as Vincent outlined in one of the slides, that a lot of the clients are thinking, if we don't get access to this data, we'll be at a competitive disadvantage. And the data is developing, the quality of the data is developing. And so everybody wants to be in there, understanding it, seeing what the potential is. But yeah, with the regulations are definitely forcing them to start looking at it. And it's forcing what the goal of the regulation was, which is to increase transparency so everybody knows more about the markets.
Clear. Anyone else? Any questions? We got anything online? Yeah, just a second.
Hopefully easy question. Source of the data and how do you compare it to the incumbents in this market like Bloomberg or LSEG or others?
Okay, so source of the data, all the data that I displayed today were publicly available data. So all the trading venues in Europe are obliged to publish this data. To compare, that's a very good question. It would be possible to compare if the consolidated tape was existing. So as there is no consolidated tape, the comparison one-to-one doesn't exist. But what we can do by working with the participants understand the overall volume happening on the market. So we can cross-check what we are showing that fits as well with what they think in the market. And what they can do as well, as every participant need to provide his data as well, they can map their own data with the data that we provide them. So if they find a matching between both of them, so it means that the data cover properly what they think is the market. Does that make sense?
Thanks, Vincent. Anything else? Anyone else with a question right now? Maybe just one last question for me then. What do you guys now need to further accelerate? What could the audience here or online potentially add to you?
We at the moment
Vincent,
we have got.
should I ask you?
I think, well, as for what the audience here could provide, I'm not exactly sure. I mean, but what we need now, I think, is just to, now that we have the clients, is to really start interacting with them and get their feedback. And we have, of course, a strong direction in mind, but, you know, bringing the customer view with that will really just hopefully send us in the right direction.
Great, thanks. So we'll need a lot of customer and product development still to do, and then from there on to build further beyond. Thanks. Clear story. Thank you very much for joining, and thank you, Vincent, for joining online.
Thank you for
just waving at the camera here. Let's give him indeed a big applause. Just really nice to get applause again for after a pitch. It's doing online pitching really doesn't make any sense. But so we're here again. Please go to the Menti and let us know what you think about Propellant and the story that you just heard. I think it was a great pitch, even though we had some technical difficulties. That's on our side. So please don't weigh that in on your rating. I hope it all works. Everyone got logged in. Yeah. Then I'll go collect the clicker. All right. Oh, I thought indeed that we're already going to the Kahoot quiz. Shall we do that first? Okay. Can Sun put that live? Do you have the Kahoot here? Yeah. Okay. Just a second. So we're going to ask you to log into Kahoot, which is another system than Menti, but actually allows for a bit more fun to actually play around with knowledge. So here we go to start the quiz. Just loading for a second, but please bring out your mobile phone so you can play along. Yes, so you go to kahoot.it or you use the Kahoot app if you've been there before, and use the PIN 9124357. You could also scan the QR. That's actually a new feature, pretty nice. I'm not sure if that works, but if you can use that, that's might be convenient. And there we see the first names coming up. You can be creative with your name if you'd like, but please keep it decent. For the rest, we're looking forward to having, and what we'll do here is just ask you some multiple choice questions to play around with a bit of fun about what happened in FinTech. What's in any case good to know in advance is that the faster you answer, the more points you get. So if you really want to win this, make sure you do that. And for the rest, what you have to do is color matching. So what you'll see on the screen is an answer to the question in a certain color. And on your phone, you'll only see that color. And so you have to push that button. We'll just wait a little bit for everyone to join in. Yeah, we're getting there. Really nice. I think we've got also online everyone now getting activated. All right, just give one more second for everyone to tune in. I think we should get started. Let's see if the clicker also works for this. All right, let's get going. We don't have any sound, but that's all right. I'll take care of that. So for our meetup, here come the questions. Be careful. Which country is currently tightening their regulations for crypto? Is that Singapore, the US, UK, or India? And think about the February news overview. Which of these countries is tightening their grip on crypto? This should be a fairly easy one for everyone who has been paying attention today. Yes, most of you got this right. It's indeed Singapore, who is, was quite a favorable haven for any kind of fintech, but now is actually pushing down a bit on crypto in February. So this is how it works. It's very easy. And now if we look at, click on the next one, we'll actually see the current standings. So you'll see, if we go to next, Sun. Can you do that? Or is it actually working with the clicker? Should I try it? Okay, yeah, it works. All right, now there we see that Hauke is doing very nicely. And so you see that the difference in points is there all right, but Hauke was the fastest of these. So this is how it works. We got 7 more questions to go, so anything can happen. So bear, keep on fighting for it. Next one on the quiz. Which bank announced to be the first to open a lounge in Decentraland? Was that Bank, JP Morgan, Wells Fargo, or Citigroup? Which one of those was the first to open a lounge in Decentraland? So you can see here that the answers are coming in pretty quickly. But if someone doesn't, we have to actually wait for the time. Yes, most of you got that right. Indeed, it was in the news as well. JP Morgan was the first to do that. So that probably doesn't change a lot in the standing. Although some people were faster than others, but really nicely done. We'll keep on going. Which technology company partnered with Singaporean payment service provider Aleta Planet for digital payments? Right, so was that Huawei, Samsung, Intel, or Accenture? Huawei, Samsung, Intel, or Accenture? Which one worked together with a payment service provider Aleta Planet? It's Huawei. And most of you got that right. So that's apparently also was a fairly easy one. Big change in the standing, or is Hauke still on top of it? Yeah, he's been paying attention very, very well, I see. But Manikantan is coming in, so very, very nicely done as well. Which company shares were in free fall as investors and Wall Street reassessed their stocks last month? Was it Fourthline, Bucks, PayPal, or Finom? Still waiting for some answers. I think everyone should know probably this one. Yes, most of you got that right. It's PayPal indeed. And did that change anything on the scoring? We see Tom moving up nicely and Kiki. Well done. Let's see if we could actually get you further into the top. advocacy group call on regulators to ban high interest rates by certain fintech players in which country? India, China, the UK, or the US? Where are they trying to come down on high interest loans from fintech companies? Ooh, that was indeed a bit tougher than before. So a lot of people thought it was in the UK as well. At a similar number actually had about the UK, the US, which was correct, where especially the companies now are trying to crack down on high interest loans. What did that do with the score? Oh, Hauke dropped off. That's a tough one. Manikantan doing very nicely. Well done. Well, still chances there. Which company confirms plans for contactless payments for merchants? Is that Samsung, Apple, Huawei, or Nokia? Which company confirms plans for contactless payments for merchants? Should not be that hard. Oh, that was too fast. It was Apple indeed. So most of you got that right. So well done. And the score, Manikantan strong on top. You're sitting here in the center stage. Eh? That's the best spot. You get all the knowledge there from everyone. Yeah. So let's see. Next one. Clicker is broken. Yeah. Oh yeah. Son, could you click on resume? Yeah. Thanks. All right, 2 more questions. Which European fintech is likely to become the most valuable fintech unicorn with their next funding round? Is that Adyen, N26, Klarna, or Bank? Which of them is going to be most likely the most valuable fintech unicorn? Yeah, for everyone who was a bit late, yeah, you're disadvantaged. We've been talking about this already at the beginning. Let's see. It was indeed a bit tougher question, but most of you got it right. It's Klarna indeed, who decided not to go for an IPO, but actually decided to go for another private funding round. And only when you're private, you can be a unicorn. So that's why they will most likely become the most valued private unicorn. Any shake up here? Not really. Manikantan going strong. Last question where you can beat him. Everyone, let's give it a go. How much investment in global banking grow in 2021? Was that 29%, 129%, 229%, or 329%? How much did the investment in digital global banking grow? Curious how this is going. The tension is rising. Ooh, pretty tough question, but most of you got it right. It's 129%. And indeed, there were even higher amounts on the especially the larger deals. Now comes the excitement. Who is the final winner? So we get the podium. Number 3, Tom, well done. Then number 2, Manikantan. Oh, that means we have a new number 1. Who is it? DJ. Well done. Congratulations. Let's give him a big applause. Well done. Well done. Very nicely done. Well played. Well played. You stayed behind the peloton until the final end where you took a sprint. No, exactly. Really exciting. So thank you, and really nice you could join. I hope you enjoy this way of just playing around a bit with all the things that are going on in fintech to make it a bit of fun. Great. Well, I'm glad actually Manikantan didn't win because his excitement was probably going to blow up his pitch anyway. So, can you switch back to the slides, and then I think we can give the word to Manikantan, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, indeed. Please come forward. Looking forward to hear from you.
The clicker, please. The clicker. Right, hopefully I'm loud and clear. Yeah. What do the consumers want? Ideally, easy and convenient ways of, banking, probably digital banking. They're looking at a seamless experience in whatever activity that they are trying to do, or probably trying to ensure that the activity goes on completely easy and relatively smooth. And God forbid, they have to probably visit a bank branch instead. Eventually, all the data that they are going to go ahead and upload needs to be safe and secure. Ultimately, what we notice is that all consumers want to move on to a digital platform, but at the same time, people of all ages are trying to see how best they can utilize these platforms. What we have noticed over the years is millennials probably have the higher chances of opting to the digital platforms, but at the same time, as long as the processes are seamless and convenient, process go through. But report shows that almost 95% of people drop off if you really don't have a seamless process that is there online. That's where banks are analyzing trends and customer expectations and looking to offer new innovative products and services around this space. Banks are transforming and they're trying to achieve sustainable growth by personalizing customer experience and innovating and bringing about tailored products based on customers' requirements. And at the same time, they also need to operate efficiently through reimagining technology with their core processes. Good evening to everybody present here and all the people joining us on Teams. I'm Manikanta Dakshinamurthy and I head the European sales for Inmutra. So what do? Our product portfolio consists of various cybersecurity offerings that includes trust services, data identity and access and authentication. And yes, the point of our discussions today is going paperless and having complete automation through EM sign-up. Now, EM sign-up by Inmutra is already recognized by Gartner as a full-fledged enterprise electronic signature platform in the report in December 2020. Along with us, it's only DocuSign and Adobe who have been granted the same level of respect in that report. So as you can see, the list that is published on the screen. Typically, what does mSigner do? mSigner is a full-fledged platform which has multiple modules where signing is the basic module where you can do bulk signing or individual documentation signing. You have a workflow module where you have people from internal to your organization or external to your organization can participate in the process. Now the documents can be static documents or can also be fillable documents. And eventually once signed, they're stored in the document store so that you can pull them out anytime you want and provide you with easy access. Now the platform has multiple user interfaces, can be used from laptops, can be used from your handheld devices. It takes care of multiple types of certificates as well. It can take care of SCS, QES, the norm in Europe, or even AES as well. We have various connectors and APIs available which are existing within the platform. Specific to the banking domain, we have connectors with Temenos, TCS Banks, Infosys Finacle. For the insurtech companies, we have integrations with DXC Technologies, and with various ERPs we do have with SAP, Salesforce, Sage, Microsoft Dynamics, Teams, and 30 odd such applications. Now the hosting is also quite flexible. We do have the product on our SaaS platform. Now you also do get an opportunity to choose, hey, I want the product to be deployed on my own organization data centers. We can do that. We can do that on private clouds. We can do that on public clouds. So the customer chooses how exactly they want the application to be deployed. What more? Now this is where we are trying to do things unique when you see other electronic signature platforms. We have a specific set of features that is required by the banking and the financial institutions. We have various user onboarding module. We have automation wherein clients themselves can initiate workflows through an online portal with the banks and move across their client service requests to the banks. Secure authentication and high assurance of signed documents because everything is digitally signed. And eventually it's all completely identity-backed digital signing with proper audit track. Now, EM signer can be leveraged out of the box and over time it can be integrated with post systems for straight-through processing. I just didn't notice that the entire text is haphazard. I'm really sorry for that, but yeah. Our key value propositions include a proper ability from our side to drive a bank-specific roadmap. So the bank can choose what kind of features that they need because no two banks are the same. They have their own set of processes, own set of departments, and own set of documents. So we do have the ability to drive their own set of roadmaps along with the other ones that you see on the screen. A simple example could be, a customer account opening, which used to take several days. We did hear from others as well who said that it pretty much takes a few months. Could be completely brought down to a few hours where identity verification is done, the user account is created, and eventually everything is digitally signed, providing it with proper legal backing. use cases are many. Wherever you see paper, wherever you see human interactions, that's where our platform comes into the picture. Customer onboarding, digital lending, channel onboarding, payments, vendor workflows, you name it, and pretty much we have it covered for you. Why are we so good in this? It's because of our experience in banking. We have flexibility to adapt to the requirements of the banking sector. We can do multi-signatory, multi-document. You can do any kind of forms that you want based on your banking requirement. And at the same time, we also translate this online to an offline process by digitally signed QR code, which can be printed on these documents in order to maintain their authenticity. We are also scalable because we have tried it in one of the largest populations in the world. We are from India, so 1.3 billion people, and that's the scale that we're talking about. And we are already able to deploy it in any kinds of architecture configuration. It could be DevOps, Docker, Kubernetes Cloud, we're right there. Any kind of confidentiality that is required in terms of granular access or Chinese walls between different departments telling, hey, a HNI client is not visible to, say, a retail department. We can take care of that. Ability for each and every bank to go ahead and configure their own kind of workflow the way they would need it. A simple use case that I would like to talk about, because of COVID, this originated, we did see a really large bank in the Middle East who really wanted to automate their entire process, go completely online, and they wanted to bring in electronic signature piece. So we were that go-to people. We were able to implement a complete paperless banking scenario for this bank in UAE in full accordance with Electronic Transaction Act and UAE paperless vision of 2020. Eventually, they became a pioneer in the region. They have various customer-to-bank flows which are completely gone digital and paperless. You have maker-checker concepts wherein you can have external people sending in data, somebody within the bank checking, and there are multiple layers of people within the bank for authenticating and checking the data before it gets sent. And given the data residency requirements of the Middle East, we had to deploy on-premises in their data centers, and it's quite a success. Ultimately, we delivered the first of its kind in Middle East, allowing the bank to automate both their intra-bank processes and their customer-to-bank processes. That's it. That's us. That's eMudra. We're an India-based company with over 750 large employees. We have various global trusts that we operate. We are a web trust audited CA. We have various certifying authorities across the world as well. We are at the forefront of PKI. And just to give you a glimpse of 50 plus banking clients, some of them are listed on screen. Thank you for your time and open to any questions.
Thank you. Well done.
You can hear him. Oh, they're close together. That'd be it.
Let me check first in the room if there's anyone with a question already. Anyone online? Says one.
How is the signing? How deep is the identity signing? For example, we work with DocuSign as well, and there is the signing is quite based on that. So I was wondering how
so that is where we are a PSP ourselves to begin with. So we are a web trust audited global PSP who issue certificates for consumers, for TLS and other kinds of requirements. And at the same time, we have integrations with various European QES-based providers as well. In addition to it, if you're also looking at any kind of video-based KYC where you really want to record the person before you sign, we do have those capabilities. And if you're looking at an Asian market kind of an expansion, we have our own certifying authorities within the locale where we are able to leverage the national ID databases and then probably pull out the information and issue short-lived certificates to go ahead and sign on the document. So ultimately, what you're looking at is a person's identity being used to issue a certificate, and that's it being used to sign vis-a-vis what you see in DocuSign, where it is just a simple check mark, and then you click next, and it's DocuSign's their own certificate that is signing on the document. So that's not what we do. We actually have the user's certificate being used to sign, so you get complete non-repudiation. Yeah.
Thanks. Anyone else? Curious also if you talk about the KYC discussion we had earlier, of course, I think there must be a bridge there probably where you can collaborate somehow if you want to talk about the actual validation of documents, for example, or identification. Do you see opportunity there, especially?
Definitely. In fact, that was the reason why I asked them the question. When we are looking at ourselves being a global TSP, we really need to verify organizations before we issue the OV certificates or the EV certificates, as we call them. And that's where probably their verification capabilities would come in handy. In fact, we are actually looking for European-based vendors who would be able to help us out. So right time, right place, and right connect. Yeah.
Yeah, no, so that's always nice, right? If you indeed already on the spot could actually make a connection, I think. And so let's say I think you've got a great track record already, right? In India and basically gradually moving in. And so now, what are your plans for Europe? What is going to happen here?
Yep. So we are starting off with two major products that we would want to focus over here. One being EM Signer that I presented here, the other being our trust services offering. Trust services is already in place here with quite a few large customers. And then what we envision doing is bringing a lot of paperless based processes with identity backing of the user. So in our roadmap, it is actually to become a qualified trust service provider in Europe. We were supposed to do it last year, but thanks to COVID, we were really unable to do that. But that's in our roadmap to ensure that we become one single place where you have the platform. And at the same time, we also do provide the identity validation for the user. So anyone could go ahead and leverage it. Yeah, that's our plan.
Great. Well, that sounds good. In any case, happy to be able to help you with that here from Holland Fintech. Just a last check. Any questions from anyone online so far in the chat? Nothing. Okay, just good to check. Here in the room, everyone okay as well? Then let's give Manikantan a big hand. Thank you very much. Well done. And indeed, let's go to menti.com again to rate the work and the pitch on Imudra. Hope you could all bring out your score. And then when you've all been able to do that, we'll move on to Michiel for the next one.
Yes, that will be online.
Yeah. Son going to bring him in? Yes, Michiel. I already see you in small.
In small. All right.
Yeah, and we can hear you.
Now get my presentation on the board. All right. But you can still hear me?
Yeah.
All right. So this is the first part. This is where I tell you a little bit. So what we're going to present today, the benefits of digital signatures, something on the legal background. I will show you a little bit on the flow of a digital signing process and on the certainty or the validity of a signed document. So digital signing, something with the background, please. Next slide, please. So these are some customer examples. Those are our clients, VGZ. They use it to sign supply contracts. The NVM is using it to sign home sale contracts, which is our national broker association. And Handelsbanken is using it to sign mortgage contracts, so commercial ones or as private ones. Next slide, please. So what are the advantages of digital signatures? It's much faster. In a few minutes, you have signed a contract. It's more efficient. If someone is somewhere else on the globe, you can still get a signature. You don't have to scan documents anymore. You use less paper, which is good for environment. It's also cheaper because it's more efficient and therefore cheaper. It's not only direct cost, but also indirect cost. It's safer. You have less fraud because you identify the signee. And you have more control over the process because you can view where the document is in the signing process, who is reading the document at the moment and has to sign it, and who has to follow up. So that makes it much more controllable to get signatures fast. So this is all based on a European legislation. It's called eIDAS, Electronic Identification and Authentication in Trust Services. It's a European standard for digital trust services. It's something you will hear more about in the future. The European Union is promoting digital transactions, or actions. And they have defined various trust services. The digital signature is one of those services, and they have identified 3 levels. So normal, advanced, and qualified. And in every European country, it's embedded in the law, and therefore it's in every country the same in Europe, which makes it quite easy to use within Europe. Next slide, please. So how do you get certainty on a digital signature? You have to make sure that the document remains unchanged. We do that by a digital sealing of a document, but also you have to know the identity of the signee by identification or authentication, where authentication means that you use a third-party source. For instance, you use how you're known within the bank. Or your bank account, or within the local government using what we have in the Netherlands, DigiD. But we can also use validation of a passport in the signing process. So there are all various means for various documents to get certainty on the signee. And the next slide, please. So digital signing process. So how does it work? Next slide, please. So this is an example or just a flow of a signing process. So you have it standalone, or you have it integrated, for instance, with SharePoint or Salesforce or some other application. You send a document to someone. You can, for instance, first send it to someone who has to approve the document, and then it will go to the first signee, for instance, someone internally, a director. So when he is signed, it's going to the next one, for instance, an external signee, and then to the other one, the third signee. So when the third signee has signed, the document is sealed, and everybody gets a copy of the signed contract. But also you can send as well a copy to, for instance, a department that has to archive all signed documents. So this is in basic all the process, and I will show you now in various steps how it would look like for someone who's receiving a signed contract. Next slide, please. So first you get a message, whether on your iPhone or email, where you have the invitation to look at the document. So that's step 1. So when we go to step 2, you see the message of the signee, of the message with the document. You can review it, and you can go to the next step. In the next step, which is step 3, you can review the document. You can agree or disagree, and when you agree, you have to sign in a various by some kind of means, and those are various, as I previously showed you. For instance, the simple mouse signature, which is often used by DocuSign, and I think the previous speaker talked about that. Another way, when you see on the next slide, is, for instance, the two-factor authentication, where you get also a code on your phone to get more certainty that the right person is signing the contract. So he's getting an email, but he's also getting a code on his phone, which he has to implement here as well. So this is another way, and that's quite easy because you can use it everywhere in the world the same way. This is called the advanced level. When we go to another various, we use EDIN. So here you sign with your bank account details, and those are included as well in your Holland Trail. For instance, your name, your address, and your date of birth. So you get more.
Just 1 second. We've got a technical glitch here. We get you online back in a second.
I think the 5 minutes, I missed that.
Yeah, the TV just turned off here, so we lost you in the room, but you're still online. You're good.
I'm still online, yes, because I
Yeah,
see
you're
the
still
slides.
online. Yeah. But just for the people here in the room, the
Just a
TV
second.
just shut off.
We're almost done.
Flat battery.
Is it a battery thing or is it the? Hold on, we're checking. The screen also just came in yesterday, so we're still figuring things out on our end as well.
I think we all have to learn this hybrid way. So it's the new way, but I
Yeah, I
think we should
agree.
figure it out. I think everybody now is used to everything digital, but this hybrid way is new. So
yeah, yep, I agree.
Yes,
Oh, you're
Michiel,
back.
we've got you back.
Yay.
I'm back. All right. So
Apologies for the break.
that's fine. I could sip a little bit of water as well. So this is another way where you.
Oh, just 1 second, Michiel. We just have to adjust the sound, and then you're okay. Sorry, Michiel. We're just getting the hang of all this, trying to mix virtual and reality here all together. But we're getting there. Can you speak?
Yeah, okay. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
They cannot hear you on the TV
You
yet.
have to
I
click
can.
on his screen.
No.
It's now the other screen is activated.
Not yet. Hold on.
Yeah, Michiel.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Oh, that's.
They still cannot hear you.
The right screen. No.
Can you see me? Hey.
Yeah, I can see you. Yeah.
So we've got you on the screen now, but we can't hear you there yet.
All right.
Can you speak, Michiel?
Yeah,
See
can
if
you
we
hear
can
me? Yeah. I'm on again?
No, not on the big screen.
No?
Yeah. Yeah, we have TV sound. It's now on the right display, on the right output.
So, can you hear me now?
Can't hear Michiel just yet.
No? Can you hear me? All right.
She has the remote, I think.
It's kind of challenging, so we're always trying to bridge it because probably you online can hear Michiel quite well. But at the same time, we're trying to get the sound here in the room as well. Can you change input at the bottom one? No, okay. Right.
Can you hear me now?
Okay. I think that's the best we can do now. So the sound on the TV doesn't work, so we will work with laptop sound. So Michiel, I would like to invite you to wrap up your pitch.
Okay.
And I think you left off just after step 4 with to sign your document. So
yeah, so I will wrap it up. So this is another way to sign a document by using how you're known at the bank, and your name and address or date of birth is then also included in the signed document as well. So maybe we can go to the next slide. So when that's done, you can close the browser, and then step 6 means that everybody will receive the signed document. Next slide, please. And I'll tell you a little bit about the certainty of the signature, which is the last slide. So every signed document gets an audit trail, a detailed signature, where we log all actions and authentication means. Here you see an example with my email address and my phone number, where you can see that I've received a 10 code and when I've applied this 10 code, and then also the next signee. After that's done, the document is sealed, and we use also certified timestamps to guarantee the time of the signed document as well. What's unique is that everything is part of one document, the audit trail, timestamp, the original document, and sealed as well in the original PDF document. So this is a little bit how a signed document works. And then the last slide, I think then we come to questions, but I would also like to invite you to try it yourself. Go to our site, zinio.com, and try digital signing. Just upload the document, fill in your name, email address, and your mobile phone, and then you can see it by yourself, how it works. So thank you very much for this a little bit messy presentation. So hopefully I can
definitely call it disruptive, Michiel.
Disruptive, all right.
So no, nice presentation, and I think you stood up well to all the challenges that we faced here. So thank you very much. So first of all, let's give Michiel a big hand for all of this. It's not been very easy. Does anyone have a question for Michiel right now already? Perhaps online as well. Anyone in the room? Just looking around. I'm in any case curious, Michiel, so what is your next expansion plan, right? So I think you've got a couple of really nice customers already. Is your focus further on customer growth or also further product development?
Yes, we also done some product development as well, which I thought was a little bit for this presentation, which is called e-delivery, one of those other trust services under the AIDAS, or it's like a registered email. It's also part of the platform, but we're also looking more international, and we're looking currently at Belgium and the German market as well. So it's a combination of markets and product. We keep innovating, but we innovate with our partners. So some of those authentication means are from our partners, and they're also a member of Holland Fintech as well. For instance, CheckID and Cleverbase, where we use their authentication means as part of our platform. But there are also in other countries as well, parties as well, that provide similar products but have a local market presence.
That's a clear story, and a nicer indeed already to see as well that there's some partners for you in the network that you can work with. So definitely nice. Any other questions from the room? Anyone? No, also not in the chat still. It might be a bit hard indeed to make that work through all the hurdles that we've put up. But in any case, it's a really nice solution. What I'm curious about, I think as well, you referred as well, I think on Emudra's solution, right? Which I think is in the similar space, but therefore it might actually be interesting to explore a little bit what actually the differences are, because I think you do actually have quite a different approach, but it might not be obvious for everyone. So that's why I, in any case, like to make that bridge. But I've lost Michiel's site now. San, can you get Michiel up for me? Okay. But so the question is, I think, could you perhaps say something about how you see, for example, whether there's potential to collaborate with a party like Emudra, or whether you see that what is the difference basically, and what does it mean for a potential relationship?
I'm not really sure. What I understood is that they are focusing on, I think, the qualified signature, within banks, but I couldn't see that immediately, so I have to look into that. And you see a lot of collaboration within the digital signature market. So you see also a lot of takeovers as well. For instance, Box recently took over a Dutch player. A sign request in Belgium was recently a player acquired by an Australian company. So what you see is that there are some global players coming up. So next to DocuSign, Adobe Sign, there are some other players that are looking for a global presence. And for the moment, we have a European focus based on this European legislation. So that's our basis, and that's how we develop our product. And that's a little bit different than, for instance, an American company would do, or a company from India would do. However, it doesn't mean that their product isn't fit for a European market. But I'm not sure if they completely comply to the European regulation. And that is something very technical. So we have to look into the technical details to do that. For instance, we work with a lot of notaries, and they have very high standards on the technical side as well. So not every signature provider is the same. And so therefore there is also room for, I would say, niche players. And I think the previous speaker was very good within the banking sector.
Each provider being quite different in terms of what they're offering, but at the same time, the larger players are trying to accumulate and assimilate multiple modes of signing to, within their platform. So what you see happening right now is probably a DocuSign or a company like eMudra is trying to bring in all forms of signatures into one single platform. So what Michael described is pretty much what is called as electronic sealing, which is again one of the types of signatures part of our platform. And we do have other modes of signatures such as higher assurance. That includes eIDAS based qualified electronic signatures. As per eIDAS, that is supposed to provide the ultimate, or rather the highest form of authenticity. So we pretty much have similar modes of signing, but at the same time, yes, we do differ in the way we do offer our products. So we have multiple modes of signing, and that exactly is one of the mode that is pretty much valid in the European market.
Thanks, Manikantan. And nice indeed to see, because I think indeed the space is very big, and there's a lot of room for all kinds of different flavors of players to go around in there. So thanks in any case, Michiel, also for sharing your presentation and your pitch. So we'd like to go now to the Menti again to make sure that you get a proper rating. We're putting it up the screen here. Yes, here it is. So please go again to menti.com and rate Michiel's pitch. We'll take a little bit of time for that. One thing I want to ask in any case in the meanwhile, so I really hope you will enjoy in any case being here in person again, even though we might have some technical hurdles here along the way. That doesn't stop us from having a beer later on, so I think it's all minor details. But I'm really curious about how you were enjoying this. So are you happy that we're all back together again and able to meet each other? Yeah, happy? Liz, I must ask you, of course, you're part of the group already for very long, so you like to be here?
Absolutely, and I brought two folks from our current cohort, Startup Bootcamp, FinTech and Cyber, and one of them does have some questions for the people who are here, but maybe we ask that when we've finished.
Exactly. No, so we also have plenty of time for that during the drinks. But in any case, nice indeed to see you again here with some other people from the Startup Bootcamp program, which I think is really really nice to have around. Yeah, so great to see you. Good to see you again, Liz. And I think then we should probably stop the voting and see who made it out as a winner. Checking in with my colleagues there on the setting up their notary hat. Yes. Well done. Encompass. Dick, Jan, and Auke, very, very nicely done. You were also competing very fiercely in the competition, and now again also the pitch competition won. Well done, well done. Congratulations. We'll give you something nice as a reminder of that. But of course, also Manikantan and you as well, of course, together with Vincent and Michiel. We would love to actually have you all here in the room and thank you and talk to you all personally. But we're very happy that we at least are able to bring the knowledge together and already very slowly can bring everyone back together again to meet each other and exchange views and hopefully discover what kind of potential and opportunities there are later on. I just want to check in with my colleagues, whether there's any other things we want to share right now. Let me see. No, I got it here. Oh, yeah, sorry, I skipped it. Yeah, this doesn't sound up to date. So we'll stick it like this. Well, we got quite some interesting things coming up. One thing in any case is next Thursday, as we've got a session that we pretty much ad hoc set up with someone from Bureau Brandeis, which is a legal firm, to talk about the sanctions that are currently being imposed on Russia, where very often the financial industry plays a large role in implementing that. So as we've heard that also quite some companies are struggling to, operationalize that. We've set up a roundtable to discuss how to do that. So that's something you can expect next Thursday morning. We've got, of course, we've got the ESG event coming up, which is the 15th of March, if I'm not mistaken, on a Thursday, Tuesday around lunchtime. We've got another event in our ESG series. We do that together with the Loft from Luxembourg and Belgium Fintech. And together we have quite some nice speakers to discuss, especially the G of ESG, right? So environmental and social governance issues, as they're being abbreviated. We've had one on E, we've had one on S, and now we're moving on to the G to actually sort of explore what's in there and how it relates to everything that goes on in fintech. Quite some interesting discussions, I think, that are worthwhile joining. And that's a fully online event. We've got, of course, the next meetup coming up. If you want to put it in your calendar, it's always the second Friday of the month, all year long. So you can book that in. And for the rest, I'm just really looking forward to get you together much more and hopefully later on share some drinks with you and make sure that we can make some new connections with everyone. Anything I forgot, Wyndham? Elsa, Sun? Are we all good? All right, then also everyone online, thank you very much for joining us and bearing with us through some of the technical difficulties. We're very much looking forward to see you again as well online and in person, hopefully next time as well. Thank you here, everyone. Enjoy your weekend and come join us for drinks.